t-shirts and pens and mugs and bags because you really don't have enough of them. But of course, that all depends upon the generosity, the creativity of the company. Sometimes you might even get an apprentice program or a job, but you never can tell. But I'll tell you this. Every bug bounty hunter has a distinctive technique for searching vulnerabilities that typically varies from individual to individual. And it does take some time for a researcher, and I put that in quotes, a researcher, to improve their personal technique and plenty of experimentation as well. Now, there is a methodology of bug bounty hunting, so you got to generally observe a batch of objectives that goes a little something like this. Analyzing the scope of the program. And I'll tell you this for nothing. The scope is the most important aspect of a bug bounty program. Why? Because it tells you which assets to test, and you don't want to spend time testing out-of-scope domains, believe me. Not that I speak from experience or anything. Also, you got to be looking for valid targets. So valid targets are the targets that help you quickly test for vulnerabilities in the scope and reduce wasting any more time. Reconnaissance. So this step is obviously a very important step in exploring an area to get confidential information. Now, it also plays a key role in penetration testing. Reviewing all applications. Now, at this stage, this is where you review all the applications and select the ones based on your skill set. Fuzzing for errors to expose flaws. You remember what fuzzing is, right? It's basically defined as iteration, but you and I know it as the fastest way to hack an application is to test all of its input parameters. And then comes exploiting vulnerabilities. So in conventional penetration tests, vulnerability exploitation is not that important. But in bug bounty hunting, the stronger the proof of concept, the better and bigger the reward. Of course, that depends on the generosity of the company. So to become a bug hunter, well, the crucial aspect is to learn about web application technologies and mobile application technologies alike. So these are the things that are going to kickstart your career as a bug bounty hunter. Apart from knowing about some technologies, you also should be aware of the vulnerabilities that are commonly used, like injection, broken authentication, cross-site scripting, or XSS, broken access control, security misconfiguration, and the like. Now, bug bounty platforms. These are software programs that are used to distribute bug bounty programs. So a bug bounty application is a deal or a praise presented for non-public people who control to find bugs and vulnerabilities in web applications, correctly crowdsourcing flaw and vulnerability management. Most organizations use bug bounty platforms to complement their in-residence QA and bug locating efforts. But here, I want to show you is pretty much the top bug bounty platforms, right? So by becoming a member of these platforms, you can test your skills and maybe win lots of prizes. Anyway, what's the difference between penetration testing and bug bounty hunting? Well, remember the criteria, right? The scope. So pen tests are conducted to meet the exacting needs of a specific client. Indeed, there are many types of assessments, ranging from internal and external network testing to web application testing, wireless testing, and many more. Bug bounty programs are focused only on testing websites and web applications that are publicly accessible. So for this reason, bounty programs can't detect vulnerabilities inside of a network or before websites and applications go live. Makes sense, right? Duration? So pen test must be completed within a time specified by the customer. On the other hand, bug bounty programs are not conducted in line with specific deadlines, and for that very reason are best used in continuous testing. So it makes them ideal for large technology businesses that are constantly releasing new products and updates. What about the cost? Yeah, the cost of a penetration test is typically based on the number of days required for hackers to achieve the agreed objective of the test. And on the other hand, most bug bounty platforms allow organizations to set the price they are prepared or willing to pay. Now, while this may seem appealing, setting bounties too low might well deter testers. But again, you got to judge that for yourself. Now, a bug bounty is not a ransom paid to hackers who discover a vulnerability, exploit it, and then try to sell that data to an organization. All right? Let me be clear. This is not a ransom. A bug bounty program is described with the aid of using a clear scope, hints, and controlled with the aid of using a verified process. All right? Bug bounties are set up to attach corporations of people that want to help each other, whether or not they prefer it, right? So firms specifically state the goal system or products which might be in the scope of this program. They also can specify targets and structures which might be out of scope. They additionally give an explanation for the rules of the program. And then as time passes, this coverage of information program rules may change. It is necessary, though, to follow these changes through the notification channels of the bug bounty program. That's why bug bounty programs are essential. Let's say, for example, you've detected a vulnerability in an out-of-scope system or website of the company that owns the program. Well, you're not going to receive any reward when you report it. You might be doing them a favor. But when you follow the notifications, the system or website that you found may actually be included in the scope. And then, if you are the first to forward that vulnerability that you find, then you may indeed be rewarded. Now, by the way, it is necessary to mention rewards. If two different people detect the same vulnerability or vulnerabilities or even an exploitation, the very first to submit gets the prize. Okay, the second sender is not usually even acknowledged, let alone rewarded, but sometimes small rewards are sent for motivational purposes. So in that respect, what I'm telling you is true. It's very important to follow the notifications. Installation of virtual operating systems. We will create a laboratory to practice the topics we will learn throughout the course. This lab will consist entirely of virtual computers. This lab will work in a virtual network. In this way, you will be able to practice as you wish without damaging other systems and your network. You can use the virtual systems you will use in this lab in all hacking courses. For laboratory setup, we will create the lab environment on two major virtualization platforms. These are Oracle VirtualBox and VMware Workstation Virtualization Software. If you are using a program other than these, you will need to make settings similar to what you see here. In the first step, we will download and install the virtualization software. Then, we will set up the virtual computers. In the next step, we will create a virtual network and move the virtual computers we have installed into this network and enable them to communicate with each other. Note, virtualization software uses the resources of the host computer. Saying for this reason, it is recommended that the host computer on which you will install lab should have at least the following features. 4-core CPU, 8 GB M, 250 GB free hard disk, 1 GB video card. VirtualBox is an open source virtualization software that can be used with many operating systems. So VirtualBox is deceptively simple, but also very powerful. Let's get started. To install VirtualBox, open your favorite web browser. VirtualBox is typed in your favorite search engine. Find the virtualbox.org website. Click Downloads from the results. This page contains installation packages for different operating systems. These packages include Windows, macOS, Linux, Debian, Fedora, Ubuntu, OpenSUSE, Oracle Linux, and Solaris. For the Windows operating system, we download the Windows hosts installation file. Click the Save File button on the screen that appears and download the installation package to our computer. The file size is large. The download will take time depending on the speed of your internet connection. When the installation file is downloaded, there will be an exe file starting with VirtualBox in the folder you used for download. We can start the installation. Double-click on the VirtualBox exe file. Click the Next button on the incoming screen. This screen lists the applications that need to be installed with VirtualBox. Below is where VirtualBox will be installed. If desired, this location can be changed by clicking the Browse button on the side. We will use the default installation location. Program Files, Oracle VirtualBox for installation. Click the Next button. On this screen, there are shortcuts and file saving buttons for VirtualBox. Click the Next button. Network interfaces set up for VirtualBox starts on this screen. Click the Yes button. Click the Install button on the incoming screen. The files required for installation are installed on the host computer. Click the Finish button on this screen to finish the installation. The installation is successfully completed. Now we can install virtual computers. Throughout the course, we will use the Kali Linux operating system, which is widely used in penetration testing. Kali Linux is an open-source Linux distribution based on Debian. It comes installed in many hacking programs used in penetration tests. Therefore, it is widely used. We can install Kali Linux distribution on our host computer in several different ways. One of these methods is installation with ISO file. Opens your favorite web browser. From your favorite web browser, type Kali Linux in the search engine. The official website of Kali Linux is at the top of the results. Click here to download it. This screen lists the different ISO installation images available for Kali Linux. Each of these is released in 32-bit and 64-bit. Kali Linux uses the GNOME desktop by default. Click on Kali Linux 64-bit at the top. Click the Save button to download the ISO image file to your computer. The file size is large, and the download will take some time depending on the speed of your internet connection. When the file download is complete, go to the folder saved by your web browser. As you can see, the download has completed successfully. You can follow the steps below to install Kali Linux operating system with ISO file. Open Oracle VirtualBox application. Click the New button on the main screen. On this screen, we will install a virtual Kali Linux machine. Name information. Type the name we will use for the virtual machine. Information on where to install the virtual machine. By default, the VirtualBox application sets virtual computers to CE users username VirtualBox VMS folder. We can change this location by clicking the down arrow. I create all virtual computers under a single folder to make it easier. My recommendation would be to put all virtual computers under a single folder. I use a folder called VMS on my computer. I create all my virtual computers here. I find the VMs folder by clicking the down arrow. I create a folder named Kali here. I click the Select Folder button. In the ISO image section, we write the path of the ISO file we downloaded earlier, or click the down arrow button to find the file on our computer. That's how it works. If you want, you can show the ISO file for later installation. When we use the ISO file, the type and version information is automatically filled in below. If we had not selected the ISO file, we would have to set these fields ourselves. In this case, we select Linux and type in Ubuntu, 64-bit in version. Click Next. We click the Next button. This screen determines the amount of RAM and CPU we will give to our virtual machine. VirtualBox shows minimum and maximum values according to the RAM and CPU values of the host machine you are using. These values can be changed after installation. So we set 2048 MB as RAM and 2 as CPU. Click the Next button. On this screen, we specify the disk system of the virtual machine. If we want to create a new virtual disk, click Create a Virtual Hard Disk. If we want to use a disk we've already created, click Use an existing virtual hard disk. We're going to create a new disk, so we click on the top option. We select 20 GB as the size. Click Next. On this screen, we will see the specific information about the virtual computer we are going to create. Click on the Finish button. When the creation process is complete, we can see the name of the virtual computer we created on the left side of the VirtualBox main screen. On the right side, we can see the properties of the virtual machine we created. We can change these properties by clicking the Settings button. Return to the main screen and click the Start button. Our virtual machine is turned on, and we see the Kali Linux installation screen. On this screen, select Graphical Install with the arrow keys and press Enter. Select the language to be used. Click the Continue button. Select the location. Click the Continue button. Select keyboard type. Click Continue. Enter the virtual computer name. Click Continue. If we are using domain name, enter the domain name. Click the Continue button. Username, Kali. Click the Continue button. Enter the root password to be used on this screen. We will use Tor password as password. Click Continue button. Select the time